on to the Reading Writing Corner. This is a non-spoiler review for Justifiable Means by Terry Blackstock. I am Leanne, the host for this video. This story is part of the series for the Suncoast Chronicles. And no, I haven't read the first book for the Suncoast Chronicles, nor have I read the other two for it. Now about the series. From absorbing legal drama to lightning-paced action, the Suncoast Chronicles offer suspense at its finest, tempered with remarkable realism and penetrating insight into the human heart. And it's very religious. Now, if you like that, you'll like this. What made me read this book? It was a mystery novel and I thought I would enjoy it. For the most part, I did. I enjoyed the mystery, but the rest of it, not so much. The blurb for this book. A violent criminal with a knack for invading justice. A beautiful victim with a secret to hide. Between them stands one good cop, torn between justice and the law. This blank case is an exception. The victim is more than willing to testify, and there's abundant evidence to put the suspect behind bars. Just one thing bothers Detective Larry Millsap. Young and beautiful Miss Nelson seems to know almost too much about the evidence needed to convict her attacker. The unfolding investigation unearths a brutal track record on the part of the suspect and a stunning revelation of Melissa's unhunting past that could do far worse than destroy her credibility. In a deadly conflict between the ironies of the law and the demands of his Christian convictions, Millsap finds himself protecting Melissa from a psychopathic stalker's lethal game of cat and mouse, even as evidence collects that could send to prison an inhuman criminal woman that has come to love. This is definitely about a woman desperate to see a killer behind bars. A detective goes further than necessary to ensure the woman he does not end up serving prison time while uncovering the truth of everything that his case has to hold. The setup of the characters is all right, but it could have been better. The motives of the detective made sense until the author threw in the detective falling in love. Love skewers all motives. Melissa's motives were not clear until her past became uncovered. I mean, like, you didn't understand why Melissa went to great lengths to frame this person for that crime. The backgrounds were cleared up for Melissa, but Larry's background was not clear, and I'm going to assume that is because it's the second book in the series, and you have to read the first to get maybe Larry's background. The plot was well thought out, but I felt that it was not given enough fluffy and mystery to hold it up better. Getting an idea of who the killer was within the first few chapters kind of spoils some of the mystery, because I mean, like, if you're going to point out the antagonist in the very beginning, even though there's questionable evidence about why that is and how that is, and if he really is the antagonist, it really does suck out some of the mystery. Melissa did not act like a true victim either. I can tell by the way she acted, more concerned for details than that something horrible happened to her. It might not have been, but I did experience something almost as terrible as that. Larry acted like a professional detective until he fell in love, and then he almost went off the rails because of it to protect the woman who committed a crime because he liked the woman a lot. This is considered in the genre of Christian mystery, which is what Terry Blackstock seems to write in. Did this live up to my expectations? Yes and no. I did not feel like the mystery was deep enough or more complicated. I suppose comparing it to Sherlock Holmes mystery is kind of mean, but the Sherlock Holmes mysteries are deep, not as in your face about how to solve it or who the villain is in it. Which character did I relate to most? Karen Anderson for standing up for what is right in a scary situation. What was more important, the characters or the plot? The plot was more important as it moved the characters and determined how things were going to go. If it had been about the characters, we might have learned more about Larry's work life, his partner's life, and their friends, Melissa's daily life outside of the case. There are multiple point of views in this, and the third point of view, and it didn't affect my reading at all. Normally doesn't, but I feel like I need to say this because it's in my little thing, I guess, to say. So I'm going to end the non-spoiler part of this review with, should you go and read this story/series? If one likes mystery dabbled with Christianity, then yes, go right ahead. And you might want to start with the first one. What is the first one? Might want to start with Evidence of Mercy, then read this one here, which is Justifiable Means, and then read Ulterior Motives. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can click away, go read this book, go read the next book, go read the first book, do whatever you want to do. And no, I'll not be reviewing any of the other books. This is my one and only for this, as it wasn't as mystery as I liked it to be. And if you think I deserve a like, comment, or even your hard-earned subscription, drop it down below. Might help you see more of me in the future. Okay, the day I'll leave, please tell me all the people who didn't want to be spoiled left, because now we're going to talk about the spoilers. There were 4, the POVs in the third person: Larry, Millsap, Melissa, Nelson, and Karen Anderson. Not that many as there usually are in the stories I like to read, because there's usually like 4 or 5 or 6, and sometimes even just 1. So you will see in the first few chapters, you will meet the main characters, side characters, and the important recurring characters like Melissa Nelson, a young woman on the path of revenge and caring what happens to her because her sister had been stalked until she committed another bad word I can't really say on YouTube. Tony Danks, detective that follows the law to the letter while doing his job properly, doesn't let a woman get in his way of doing what is correct. Larry Millsap, detective that skirts the law when it is convenient for him, and even his partner says that. Edward Pendergrast Soames, and unaliver that had gone away with too much of it. Linda Barrett. She was in the first book, having been stalked and almost killed as her plane went down. Jake, he was the pilot that almost lost his ability to walk. They're in it. Towards the middle. Karen Anderson, Pendergrast's next victim. My favorite character was Karen Anderson, because she basically willingly walked into a dangerous situation to stop a dangerous person. My most disliked character was Edward Pendergrast Soames, because I hate people who get away with doing terrible and evil deeds, and they should always be caught. It was told in chronological order with very appropriate language. The foreshadowing and suspense only really kicked in when Melissa was being stalked, and at the time Karen was brought into the fold on her stalker and potential death. Potential unaliveness. The background is explained for most characters enough to be understood. The main character's background's not so much. Melissa's background was golden, but Larry's was not. There's barely any said about it because the author probably went on the assumption that those reading book 2 would have already read book 1. It was not the case for me. The title meant someone doing something that can be justified, even if it's illegal. And the cover of the book means the villain goes to the woods to bury his victims, because that's where he goes to try to bury Karen before she's even unalived. What stood out as memorable was that a woman would go to such lengths to put a bad person behind bars. I mean, like, I probably would too if the situations were similar in that way, shape, or form. I would do whatever is legal to get them put behind bars. Not illegal like what this woman did, but legal. Because I don't want to be behind bars myself, like Melissa ended up being behind bars because she did it the illegal way. My favorite passage from this story is what she'd done was a good thing. Maybe it hadn't been so terrible after all. It could have been so much worse for her, for all of them. That's Karen, about what she did at the end of the book, being brave and going out there and essentially getting kidnapped and almost unalived. To put someone behind bars legally. My favorite quote: do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. Because the world out there is troublesome and there are things to be afraid of, but you just need to overcome your fear and move forward. And don't let things that have happened in the past trouble you to make your life miserable in the future. You just don't need that. You don't. What I thought about the ending of the book: it was okay. Wish there had been more between the two main characters falling in love. More time between the two main characters falling in love. And I wish that there was a little more focus on Karen at the end, because I loved her as a character. She was the best brought in character in my opinion. What book did it remind me of? Cape Refuge by the same author, Terry Blackstoff. Christian, mystery, murder, it's all there. I did not like that Mary and Melissa fell in love so quickly, even if they are both placed their meeting and falling in love with God. I want to end this part of the spoiler video and the end of the video with this book is part of a series, the Suncoast Chronicle, and there are 3 of them that I know of, and this was book 2. So if you wanted to go read them, you would need to read Evidence of Mercy first, then Justifiable Means, and then Ulterior Motive. I believe so. I will see you next illusion.